This time on Uncle Jesse's Rod Shop, I thought I would share a little gearhead wisdom with everyone. Maybe you can learn a few things, or maybe not. Yep, wisdom from a guy who just got his car stuck in his backyard. That's the kind of guy you want wisdom from. Maybe he learns from trial and error, and I can share it with you. Alright, I'm putting the seat belts in, and I have the seat belt covers here. Front and rear, both sides. I wanted to give a little tech tip here. You need to listen to your Uncle Jesse here. So this is the back side of one of the seat belt covers. You put these things on, they go right there like that. It just has a clip on the one side, on the top, and then a screw on the bottom. They're hard plastic against steel. Well, what do you think is going to happen? It's going to vibrate like crazy. And listen, I know I'm probably pretty anal about stuff like this, but I hate vibrations. Can't stand it, especially on a vehicle that you built. You put time into something, and you drive it around, and it vibrates and rattles like it's an old beater. Well, this is not an old beater. So, the solution to vibrations in these old vehicles where there's a lot of hard plastic and where it just attaches to steel and there's only a couple fasteners, I'm going to show you the solution. Here's the solution. Not my leg. This stuff. This is RV butyl tape, I believe is what they call it. Sealant tape. So this stuff, soft, stays soft. It's sticky. And I use that. I strategically put it on the back side of whatever you're attaching. In this case, the seatbelt cover. You can see that the only fasteners, there's a screw hole right there, two little screw holes right here, and these plastic plugs or whatever you want to call them. Well, these extra corners out here, that's where the vibration comes, because there's nothing really holding it down. So there's a little tension, this creates a little tension and a buffer between the steel and the plastic. And again, you can get this stuff at any RV supplier. And there you have it. Now, it's important to not put too much of that stuff on there. You don't want it oozing out, but you want it just above the surface so it sticks out, but there it is. Listen, today is your lucky day because you're going to get 2 of Uncle Jesse's tech tips. What do you think of that, Dixie? That's what I thought. You know, the glare in this shop recording stuff is tremendous. Not good either. Anyways, so you're getting 2 tech tips for the price of 1 today. It's probably worth exactly what you're paying for it. But I'm going to show you something else. Come follow me. What is this? This is Velcro. There's the hook, there's the loop. I ordered this stuff from McMaster-Carr. It's their high-strength adhesive version. I'm sure you can get this stuff at a lot of different places. But I'd be aware of cheap stuff, you know, adhesive issues and whatnot. So in a previous video, interior plushness, where I laid down the carpet, I mentioned there was a few areas that needed to be fastened down better. One of them was here by the seat belt. So what I did was, as you can see here, laid Velcro down. And now you can access it. And it's not glued down, but it's not going anywhere either. Now when you separate the two, you do have to be careful not to pull on it too hard because, well, in my case, the adhesive is against sound deadening and it's probably not the most secure. But you just have to kind of stick your finger between the two and you can get it started, and then you don't have to worry about pulling up the bottom layer. So now what I have to do is the 2 pieces of carpet come together, and this is just kind of floppy. There will be a seatbelt anchor right here. I don't have to make that yet because it needs to be raised 1.5 inches or 2 or so. But I'll lay a layer of that Velcro down in between the seatbelt mounts, kind of fasten a little bit better. But I did it right here and behind the seat in the back here, down here. So it's secured down. And anyways, tech tip number 2. You're welcome. All right, now I want to talk about cab mounts. Yes, cab mounts. Tech tip number 3. This is the front passenger side mount. And you'll notice this is rubber. And I had to make a spacer. I had to lift the cab about 3/4 of an inch to clear the transmission. The big ZF6 takes up a lot of room. It really is a big transmission. Anyways, so the lower part's still rubber. And what I want to talk to you about is polyurethane. One of the most overused aftermarket items you can get is polyurethane just about anything. So, needless to say, I went with rubber bushings instead of polyurethane cab mounts. Because polyurethane cab mounts, no good. The old 4BT is a little shaker. It's not the smoothest running engine in the world, so that's another barrier between you and engine vibration. That's probably the biggest downside of the 4BT. All right, these are the front radius arms on my 1979 F-150 four-wheel drive. Uncle Green, as we call it. There's rubber on both sides here. All right, this is a pivot point. This is a inexpensive way for Ford to make these radius arms pivot for durability purposes. You don't want polyurethane there. That's a pivot point. You don't want to bind it up. This is an example of where you don't want polyurethane. You know, on old 60s muscle cars, well, Falcons and Mustangs, Cougars, Fairlanes, that kind of thing, Comets. The front suspension on those use strut rods up front for the lower control arm. The lower control arm, and then there's a strut rod. In the aftermarket, sells polyurethane bushings. It's a pivot point. Polyurethane probably has its place for a few things, but very few. It kind of chaps my butt actually that there's engineers, and I doubt there's real engineers that are recommending polyurethane strut rod bushings for a 1968 Cougar. Anyways, if you want real performance, you want your pivot points to be unencumbered. And then you control your dampening with your springs and your shocks, not with how resistant your pivot point is, okay? It's just not how it works. That's not how any of this works. Anyways, polyurethane, that's my little thing about polyurethane. But getting back to cab mounts, man, these old trucks, they're harsh enough as it is in the suspension department. A little rubber between the cab and the frame is a good thing. Again, if you're trying to control frame stiffness by making a more direct link to the cab, to the frame, then that's probably not a good idea. These old cabs, especially a longer cab. I mean, if it was a short cab, it wouldn't be as big a deal. But these longer cabs, and you want a little rubber in between to kind of, for a little give, so you're not torquing on the cab as much. Maybe it's because I'm older than I used to be. I don't need this stuff jarring my spine or vibrating like crazy, and the rubber does cut down on that. So tech tip, be wary of polyurethane aftermarket crap. There's better alternatives. And sometimes the stock stuff is actually better. All right, enough about that. So there you have it, a little rant, tech tip. You see the brake line there? It's leaving the proportion valve and it's headed down to the rear of the truck. And I got the loop-de-loop there. Loop-de-loops are good for brake lines in this situation. Let me tell you why. I mentioned in the previous tech tip that these frames flex. And it transfers that flex to the cab. And the rubber bushing absorbs some of that. Well, that means there's some movement between the cab and the frame. And the brakes, the master cylinder, all that's connected to the cab, okay? So then your brake line goes down, inevitably it connects to the frame at some point. And since it connects to the frame from the cab, there's gonna be some flexitude there. That's a technical term, you know, flexitude. Anyways, it's good to have a little loop-de-loop like that to take up some of the movement, and that way it's not so it doesn't stress out your lines. And speaking of the lines, I used NiCop, it's called. It's a nickel copper alloy of some sort. It's the first time I've used it, and I like it so far. If the price point's right between stainless and regular steel lines, it's not supposed to rust. I can't imagine it would. It's copper nickel alloy, but I'm not sure if it discolors or not. I don't know, but it's that goldish color. They bend super easy. You can use your tubing bender, or you can bend it by hand. It looks better with a tubing bender, but it bends super easy. It doesn't kink. It probably does, but you'd have to try hard to kink it. And anyways, so far I recommend it. Let me tell you a little story. Everyone gather around your Uncle Jesse here. He's got a story I'm going to share with you from some life experience. So as I just was talking about the brake lines, and it reminded me of, well, first let me say this. Don't ever use copper lines for I don't think anyone would use copper for brake lines. That would be, I think most people will know, that's not a good idea. It's just not rated for that. But even lower pressure stuff, copper in an automotive application is a bad idea for lines. So back in the 90s, I have a 68 Cougar, and I built this car. I mostly drag raced it. I still got it. It's right over there. I'll make a video about it sometime. You probably noticed it in the background. I use copper lines for transmission lines from the transmission to the cooler. I don't know. I think it was maybe 2 years of using the car, mostly drag racing, a little street time. The copper line, it just failed. It just it cracked. I don't remember exactly where it cracked, but it didn't take long. 2 years and not many miles is not very long. So I learned my lesson. Most of you probably wouldn't use copper. The reason why I did, I just got it from the hardware store, and it's low pressure, it's transmission fluid, no biggie, and it bends easy, and it looks decent, and it won't rust. So I thought, hey, copper line, no big deal. So what happened was, trailered the car to Mid-Michigan Motorplex down over in Stanton, Michigan. It's east of me. It's a full hour and 15-minute drive, especially driving a big truck with a trailer and you got your car on the back. Even in the 90s, that's a lot of money in gas just to go to the drags. You sign up, you want to do a little test and tune, you put your 20 bucks or whatever it was at the time to run your car down the strip, and you make one pass and you come back and you got transmission fluid coming down. That ended my night, just like that. And I don't even think I got a clean pass in for whatever reason. I don't remember oiling the track down or anything like that. I wasn't that guy at that time anyways. But it wrecked my night, and then I had to bring her home and get some new lines and put it together. So don't ever use copper for even low pressure stuff, copper lines. It's not meant for all the vibrations and whatnot. You just leave that to your home. And anyways, there's another tech tip, little life experience. School of hard knocks. Yeah, don't do it. Don't do it! Yep, we live on a dirt road. Problem with dirt roads, after the winter thaw, your car gets dirtier than Andrew Cuomo. Well, maybe not that dirty, but it's getting there.